I got it. Yep. What's up? What's up, everyone? We'll give it a minute. We'll kick it off, get started. Welcome, welcome. Let me see here. All right. And we got a co-host going. Perfect. So Vanessa, if you could just check out the chat, make sure everyone gets in. So welcome. Let's get right into it. If you have a deal that you want me to look at, text it in the chat, or raise your hand, and then we could talk about it. If no one has a deal, then I'll just get into the normal routine of looking for deals. So there's a few agents coming on. Okay, let me just close out these windows. All right. Does anyone have a deal? No? Okay. So let's get into it. So what you're seeing now is this is what I did my entire career is as I looked for deals for clients on the MLS. And what do I look for? You're about to find out. So I'm just going to talk out loud everything that I see, and then that way you guys could kind of get an idea of what you should be looking at when you look for deals. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to contacts, and I'm going to look up a saved search that I created for myself under the name Voltaire Lepe. There we go. Um, So I created several searches for myself, and I'm just going to go into each one and see if I could find a deal, okay? And I put it pretty broad. So this is a condo for 369, 118 days on the market. I don't see any value in it. It just, price per square foot super high, $764 square foot. The building itself, I know the building, it's a little crappy building on the corner. It's just there's no equity in it, 484 square feet. So there's no really true value. And that's why I just skip to the next one. And usually I go really fast, but for this sake, so you guys can kind of see what I do, I go slow. All right, the next one is in Lemon Grove, and it looks like it's a fourplex, it says right here. Now, the first thing that catches my eye on this is I see that it only has two addresses, 8050 and 8052. So is it really a fourplex or is it a duplex? The next thing that catches my eye, it says four garages. Okay, that's cool. That adds value. And then the price 1.375 for a fourplex, 79 days on the market. Okay. Let me read the remarks real quick. Lemon Grove Way represents, let me see, to own four large two-bedroom, one-bath units on half an acre. Now, the reason why I think it's super important for you guys to know how to evaluate a fourplex is because I've talked to several multimillionaires, several decamillionaires that own hundreds of units. I'll give you one example. This guy, he's in North Park, Mexican guy. He used to be a plumber. He bought his first property ever was a fourplex, and then he bought another fourplex over the years. Again, he's a plumber, right? And um, the last time I talked to him, it's been a couple of years, but the last time I talked to him, he had 600 doors here in San Diego, right? And I remember when I met with him, probably, I didn't own anything. And I was just like, hey, how did you get started? And his answer surprised me. He just said, I bought a fourplex and, I manage it myself, blah, blah, blah. And then years later, I was able to buy another fourplex and then buy another. So he started off with like several fourplexes. Then over the years, what happens? 7 to 10 years later, you build up equity, you pay down the principal, you build appreciation. And now he has over 600 doors in San Diego. And that was a few years ago. So I'm assuming now he has probably more, 800. But I met him because he was doing an exchange into a bigger property. And that's when I like said, hey, wow, you have so many properties. Can I meet with you? And he put me up on game. So, anyways, all that to say is that you guys should understand how fourplexes work, how to evaluate them, because if you could help your clients get into fourplexes, you guys can make a lot of good money for yourself and for your clients. One person that who's really good at fourplexes, who sells a lot of fourplexes here in the office, is Ryan. Last year he did 13 deals for like I forgot how many millions, 15, 16 million, because he's selling these fourplexes for 1.2, 1.4, 1.5 million. So and they're all VA. So us buyers didn't have any money. They're coming in with zero down. So he's finding all these broke people with VA, and then he's helping them buy fourplexes, and he's making a good living off of it, and he's helping his clients. Okay, so now let's analyze this fourplex. As I mentioned, what caught my attention was only two addresses, but it's a fourplex with four garages. So garages give it a little value, and then it's been on the market 79 days, 1.4 million. Now it's 1.375. So let's look at the rents. 800 square foot units. I like this size. 800 is good. That's 3,200 square feet total. Um, and why is that important? You're gonna see in a minute. Now the rent, 2,000 bucks. That's that's decent. That's not too far off of what you could rent for right here in Lemon Grove. Um, so let's look at the photos real quick. So you
Okay,
have,
while you're looking at those, Holly did say, can you touch on how to not over leverage as you're building a portfolio?
okay,
So I'm not
cool.
sure if that's something you can discuss while you're doing this.
Yeah, for sure. So the answer is easy, Holly. As long as the properties pay for itself, then I think you're okay. And that was my rule: is buy a property, it pays for itself, then I'm buying it. Okay, so this is uh, it looks like it's two duplexes next to each other, and then you have the garages in between. Um, so what right off top is I'm thinking, okay, these two garages into one ADU on this side and then another ADU on this side. So it could technically, be built into like 6 units. Now, the other thing is it says it's on half an acre. So if this is actual land, then it's probably not enough to build some more. But there's that new law in California that allows you to build double whatever you have already. So if you have fourplex, you could build a eightplex, meaning another fourplex. So that's kind of valuable right now as far as um, so you guys understand what's going on there. But okay, so now I kind of got a good understanding of the layout. The next thing is let's run an analysis. I'm gonna run a GRM and then a cap rate. Okay, so GRM right off top, 2,000 per unit. That's pretty easy to understand. So I'm gonna do 2,000 per unit. You guys can see my calculator, yes or no? Yeah, perfect. All right, so 4 units times 2,000 a door, that's 8,000 a month times 12,000. Sorry, times 12 months, that's 96,000 for the year. So the first one, since I already have it open, I'm just gonna do a cap rate. So how do you analyze a cap rate? Cap rate is very simple. Gross rents minus expenses equals NOI. So write that down. Gross rents minus expenses equals NOI. What's NOI? Net operating income. So that's the most important thing to determine a cap rate. Net operating income. So how much is expenses? And what is expenses? So right now, because of insurance costs and other fees going up, I'm calculating expenses at 40% across the board. Okay, so 40% expenses on residential properties. What are expenses? Expenses are taxes, insurance, maintenance, you know, toilets, trash, and tenants. Okay, toilets, trash, and tenants, plus taxes, property taxes, and insurance, those are expenses. Property management, things of that nature. So I calculate that ballpark at 40% of the total gross. So the total gross is 96,000 minus 40%. That's minus 38,000 for the year. And that gives me NOI of 57,000. Now, expenses aren't the mortgage. Okay. Just so we're clear. Monthly mortgage payment, that's not considered an expense. Just the taxes and insurance portion of it. With that being said, 57,000 for the year. Then I divide it by the purchase price. This is how we're going to figure out the cap rate. Purchase price is 1.375. So I'm going to do 1.375 purchase price. That's a 4.18% cap rate. 4.18%. Is that a great cap rate? No, it's not. So what would have made this a great deal? A great deal would have been having a cap rate of like 5.5. At 5.5, it's like, okay, we're looking at this deal, right? Because at that point we could squeeze more rents. Um, and Vanessa, if you could take care of the people online, waiting. Um, so yeah, at this it's like 5.5, so it's 4.18. So on this metric, which is the first metric we're talking about, cap rate, it's not a great deal. The next metric we're gonna run is GRM. Okay, how do you run GRM? Easy. Sales price divided by the gross rents, not net operating income, not the net. We're going off the gross this time. What's the gross? We already did the math earlier, right? 96,000 for the year, gross. That's a 14.3 GRM. What's a 14.3 GRM? 14.3 in this area, Lemon Grove, is a little bit above what's normal. I would say norm or what people are buying GRMs at is somewhere between 12 and 14. And 12 is like a better deal. 14 is more of a market deal. So this one's above a market deal. Do you guys know why they're asking for 14.3 GRM or why they're asking for a 4.18 cap rate? Do you guys know? Anybody? Give you guys
Oh,
some
because they
clues.
have garages and they think that someone's going to convert them. I don't know.
Good. A good point. Yeah, that's a good one because they're saying, hey, look, there's future income that you're not tapping into. So we're asking for a premium because there's some garages. Good point. What other point? There's one more point. Anyone? Why they're asking for maybe over what they're what it's worth.
The size of the lot.
Size a lot, yeah, but not really because remember the sportplexes we calculate them based on for the most part we calculate based on income. So the second reason, the Holly hit the first reason, garage potential. The second one is rent potential. So they're saying, hey, right now we're only charging 2 grand, but market is 2,300 for each unit. Is that true? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Do I own any units in Adrian, you're on the line. You own something in Lemon Grove. What's a two-bedroom, one bath, 800 square feet? 800 is a good size. What would that rent for?
Yeah, I'm saying yeah, closer to 23.
23? Okay. Is that
Yeah,
with or without the garage?
with I would say without the garage.
2,300? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Is it like
All right.
houses or apartments? I didn't see the property.
It's right here. It's their apartments. It's just like your setup. It's like a two-bedroom and then there's two garages in between and then the other two-bedroom.
Oh, yeah, somewhere 23 without the garages.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so hey, they're not lying to us. They're saying that the projected rents are 2,300. Okay, let's run the math on that. All right, you guys can see my calculator again, right? So now we're gonna run a projected income. Okay, 2,300 times 4 units. That's 9,200 a month times 12 months. That's 110,000 a year. So that's significantly higher. Now we're gonna run the same scenarios, a cap rate and a GRM. So let's subtract for a cap rate. Let's subtract the 40% expense. So let's get rid of 44 grand. That gives us 66,000 for the year. We're going to divide the purchase price of 1,375,000 to figure out the cap rate, and that gives us a cap rate of 4.8. So now they're saying, hey, look, you guys get a 4.8% cap rate based on future rents. Okay, that still doesn't move the needle for me, right? Because it's like, okay, under 5%, it's not a great deal. The next way to look at it is let's look at it from a GRM perspective. So GRM, what do we do again? We do sell price divided by the gross rents, which in this case, projected gross rents for the future, if you raise the rents, that's 110,400 a year. That gives us a 12.45 GRM. Okay. My mentor, by the way, the guy that taught me how to analyze commercial properties or sorry, apartments, one of the best apartment brokers in the history of San Diego. He always told me, hey, Voltaire, these last two digits really matter. So when you're talking to a client, Claudia, when you're talking to a client, Adrian, Francisco, you can't just say, oh, it's a 12 GRM, right? 12.45 GRM, right? So that's what something he always taught me. Now, with that being said, um, I mentioned to you earlier, the range that these trade for in Lemon Grove is between 12 and 14 ballpark. Okay. So now it's like it went from the higher end of being a 14 GRM on actual rents to a 0.45 GRM on projected rents. Okay, that still doesn't move the needle for me because I got to go in there and give all the tenants notice and like kind of push up rents, right? So it's not a deal for me. Now, how do you analyze it for a client? Well, for the client, these things matter, right? Because you want to make sure that you're selling them a property that's within that guideline. Before I move further into an analysis on there, I'm going to look at the tax record just to make sure that the square footages are accurate. So right away, I determined that the square footages are not accurate, right? They told us on the MLS that it's 800 per door times 4 doors, that's 3,200. Right here, we find that it's 3,036. Now, 3,036 is still a good size, but it's not 3,200 square feet. And we're going to figure out why that matters in a bit. Um, Now we have an 8 bedroom. So yeah, so they're not lying to us about the unit count, and they're not lying to us about the bedrooms and baths. So we got that out the way. It is half an acre. Doesn't look like it, but it is. So now let's run an analysis based on the square footage. You guys can still see my calculator, correct? Now I want to figure out price per square foot. Now, if this was a great deal, it would be somewhere in the $300 a square foot range. Market deal, it's going to be somewhere in the $400 a square foot range. So let's figure it out. This is the sales price. You guys can see my calculator. I'm going to divide it by what's on tax record, 36 square feet, 452. That's a market deal, right? It isn't like, so now, why is this important? I want you guys, whenever you look at a deal for yourself or for a client, you have to have several markers that you use. Okay. So I typically use maybe 6 markers, and they got to hit on 4 out of 6 for me to say, wow, this is a good deal. So the first one we went over, GRM, it's a market deal in this case. We went over cap rate, second marker, market deal. We went over price per square foot, $452 a square foot. That's market, right? So it's not a great deal on 0 out of 3 so far. Right now, it's kind of like market. So it's a good market deal for somebody who's looking for a market deal. Now, who is looking for a market deal? Now we start to go from, okay, I'm looking for myself or for an investor. Now I'm looking for maybe somebody who's in the market for something like this, long term, like super long term. Okay, well, that might be a VA buyer. So I mentioned earlier in the call, someone who's really prolific at selling these fourplexes is Ryan from our office. He sold like over 10 of these last year, and they're all like 1.4 million. He's making really great income from people who have zero down, right? Because all his clients are VA members, zero down. So now let's look at it from Ryan's eyes. All right, so I'm gonna go into let me see, I don't know if everyone has ChatGPT or not, but what is the PITI for a 1.375 million dollar fourplex in San Diego? 5.5% interest rate, 1.2% taxes, VA loan, no MI, 0 down. So let's find out. Here we go. $8,200 a month. So principal and interest, 6,500, property taxes, insurance. How much did I say for insurance? Did I tell it, or did it just make something up? Insurance is $400 a month times 12. That's $4,800 for the year. That sounds kind of rich, but we'll go with it. $8,200. With that being said, let's go back over here. Let's take out a calculator. Let me see, 8275. So let's take out a calculator here. So let me ask you guys this. The total rents every month is 8 grand, and the payment's 8275, and you put 0 down. Is this something that you should pitch to your client? your VA buyer?
Yes, and you can maybe rent the garages out separately because didn't Adrian say that the 2300 was without garage?
Yeah, he did. Yep. So that's a good insight. What else? And you guys are all realtors, so I want you guys to kind of look at this and see what you would say. Anyone? It's all good. It's all
I
good
would
if you're
say yes,
why?
because like most military people are like really broke. They're bad with
Mm-hmm.
money. And
Mm-hmm.
like when they get their BAH, like they want to, pocket, you know, as much of it as they can. And if, their BAH is usually around 3,500 a month.
How
So if
much?
they're like around 3,500 in San Diego.
Okay.
So if they're gonna live in one unit and they're gonna pay like 2,300, 2,600 a month, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
pocket around 800 bucks a month.
Okay, good. So that's the answer, guys, is BAH. I don't know what that stands for, but I know it's the money that they
Basic housing
receive.
allowance. It's like
There we go.
basic housing allowance.
Basic housing allowance. So they get
The
3,500 bucks in San Diego
give or take.
on top of their income. So they get income whatever from the Navy or military or Army or whatever. And then on top of that, they get basic housing allowance of 3,500 bucks. And they say, hey, like this is so you could go rent somewhere. So they could either rent in Little Italy and blow the 3,500 on a one bedroom, or they could go in North Park, maybe spend 3,000 on the two bedroom, or they could go to Lemon Grove and they could either rent for 2,000 a month and pocket the other extra 1,500, right, for rent. Or if they're smart, and a lot of our job is to make them smart, our job as realtors. So what does Ryan do? I see Ryan, the realtor here at the office that does a lot of these. I see him come in with his VA clients. They sit down over there and he educates them. And he educates them on whatever right now Francisco mentioned, which is, hey guys, what's your BAH? And then they go, oh, 3,500 bucks a month. Oh, 3,500, cool. Let's run the numbers. So this is how the numbers look. Let me show you guys what the numbers look like. So Ryan probably says, hey guys, um, you're gonna get $2,000 times 3 units, right? Because you're gonna live in the fourth. So the total gross rent is 6 grand for the month, right? Your monthly payment on this property, guys, it's going to be 82.75 a month, zero down. So you're going to be responsible for the difference for the mortgage of $2,275 a month. So how much were you going to rent in Lemon Grove for, or how much are you renting for in Lemon Grove? And they're going to be like, I'm renting for 2,000 a month. Cool. For another $275, you want to own this property and be a property owner? Sure. How much is it going to cost me? Zero down. Nothing. And I'll negotiate the closing costs for you. And then they go, yeah. So what's going to happen in the future? Well, in the future, rents are going to go up. How much? I don't know, 7% a year. Cool. So how's that look? Well, $6,000 plus 7% increases annually. So the first year you're going to be at 12 months later, you're going to be at 6,420 bucks, right? So the first year, after the first year, you subtract the mortgage, 82.75. Now their rent went from $2,275 a month that they're responsible for to $1,855 a month that they're responsible for. Does that make sense? And then they say, well, what's going to happen after year two, Ryan? Well, after year two, we're going to raise the rents again, 7%. And now this is the rent that's going to come in after year two. What am I responsible for, Ryan? Ryan's going to say, well, minus 82.75. You're responsible for 1,400 bucks. They're going to say, wait a second, my living expenses can go down every year? Yeah, it's going to go down every year. What's going to happen after year three? Well, year three, it's 68, 69.4 plus 7%, right? Okay, what am I going to be responsible for? Well, the rent, the total mortgage is 82.75. Ryan's going to say, your total responsibility is going to be under $1,000. They're going to be like, wow. And how much are they getting from the BAH? They're getting, plus 3,500 bucks from the Navy to live somewhere. So they're going to be keeping 2,500 bucks in their pocket 36 months later. Now, is anyone here surprised that Ryan sold 14 of these last year? Is anyone surprised? Does anyone here explain it like this to their clients? Ryan does. And I see him here, I don't know, once a week with someone in their military, you know, what are they called? Uniforms. And this is what he's just breaking it down to them. It's very simple. Now, the other thing that he could potentially break down to them is, hey guys, look at after 36 months or 4 years or whatever, right? You're gonna get rents up to that amount, right? So let's just do the math. Let's pretend that you weren't living in the home 4 years from now. You move out. What is the rent's gonna look like? Okay, plus 7% after 12 months. Okay, so that's month 12, month 24, month 36, month 48. Okay, now they're getting 10 grand after month 48, right? After they're done 4 years living there. Then they move out, right? They get stationed somewhere else, they move out or whatever. Their payment is still 82.75, 82.75. Now, this is positive. So is the property paying for itself at this point once they move out and they rent them out? Yeah, it is. And then they move out, they take their 3,500 bucks a month from their BAH and they go do it all over again, in my opinion. Or they go live in Little Italy for 3,500 bucks and they got themselves this asset that over time is going up in value. And we haven't even talked about converting these garages or anything else. Does that make sense? And by the way, I have fourplexes like this, and ballpark, I get 10 grand from each fourplex that I get gross a month. So this one at 8,000, it's for sure it's under market. Cool. So again, it's not a steal for a client or an investor or whatever, but this is a bread and butter. And like I started this conversation, the guy that taught me this used to be a plumber. He bought his first fourplex, his second fourplex, his third fourplex, and now he has over 600 units in San Diego. And he started with fourplexes, and that's why we have to understand these fourplexes. All right, cool. Moving on. By the way, does anyone have a VA buyer you're going to send this to? Yeah, shoot it over to them. And you explain it the same way I just explained it to y'all. And earn yourself a commission and put some money in their pocket over time. All right, the next one I'm looking at, McClintock, 92105, City Heights. I'm going to speed it up a little bit so we could get some under our belt. This is a duplex for 1.2 million. Is this a deal? No. Why? Because I just compared a fourplex for almost the same price, not as good as a neighborhood, and it's 4 units. This one's 2 units. Better area, but not a deal. Yeah, 2 units. You have a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and then you have a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. So it's not bad, but no, it's not a deal. Let's keep moving. You have a condo. Okay. Oh, it's a studio for 236. So what I liked about this one is $236,000 for a studio. What I didn't like about it is price per square foot, 778 bucks a square foot. That's super high. Why? Because it's a 300 square foot studio. Why is this so? This is weird. I haven't seen one of these in a minute. Something like this. Let me see, the HOA super low. It's off of College, near San Diego State-ish. It's decent. There's a little pocket right here. As long as it's not on the main street, then it's okay. But like this is super low price. It's a tiny little unit. I think it's not a deal, but it's worth looking at for somebody because we'll do a payment calculation in a bit, but holy crap, that's like a very low priced unit. Looks like they bought it for 129 8 years ago. and it looks like they've been trying to sell it, or they tried to sell it last year. They couldn't for 279. So I don't know. Let me see. Let me ask our friend over here to do our payment scenario. What if I buy a condo for 236K, zero down, um, say 6% interest rate, and insurance, I don't know, 800 insurance for the year. And am I missing anything? How much was the HOA? Does anyone remember? Was it 179 or something? Nobody? HOA?
It was like 270, no?
All right, let me see. 273. Good call. 273. HOA, insurance, we got interest rate, zero down, 236. So that's yeah, 1.2% tax. She got it right. He got it right. 1,200 bucks. Or no, never mind. 2 grand. 2 grand to live in this. I mean, this is started for somebody. I would definitely send this out to like single people who are renting for 2 grand. Be like, hey, you want to own this thing? And then I would also introduce him to someone, my buddy Bruno at Bank of America. He'll give him a deal, a loan on this thing for free money, 17,500. So he'll cover the down payment and closing costs. So you could walk in here with like nothing out of pocket and just start living in here for 2 grand. I think this is a good deal for somebody, not an investor, but a first-time buyer for sure. I would definitely send it to somebody. All right, the next one, detached home, uh, El Cerrito, 1,400 square foot, $1 million. I don't think it's a deal. Same little pocket off of College. It's a nice house. Actually, it's a good property for somebody to buy, but I think it seems like it's a little bit underpriced. Let me do the quick math. 1,025,000. That's a purchase price divided by the square foot. Nah, it's not a good deal. It's too high. 700 bucks a square foot market. This one, Cervantes. This is right here in
Booker, what was the address of the studio? Francisco's asking.
6101 Adelaide. 6101 Adelaide, Unit 102. Cool. 4 bedroom, 2 bath, El Cervantes. So this is by Skyline. 9,300 square foot lot. So I like the lot size. The price seems like it's a regular price. Um, if I look at the comments, it's a 3 bedroom, 1 bath house. And then it has a detached garage conversion for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath studio. Public records show a 3 bedroom, 1 bath, buyer to no garage conversion, creates a functional 4 bedroom, permits and all. So it doesn't have permits, you know. Um, if it had permits, this would be like something to look at for sure, but it doesn't. So this is like 50-50. Let me see. Oh, it looks good. The little studio looks really good. Um, so with that being said, I would look into how much it will cost to convert this into a legal 1 bedroom. And if it's somewhere like under 20 grand, if you just get the permits for under 20 grand, then I would say, yeah, it could be a deal because then you get 2 units for under 750. Okay, here it is. Here's a studio or the 1 bedroom. It looks like it was done legit. So I would look into this and just see, ask my architect how much it'll cost. So if I could get it under 750 for 2 units, not bad. And then the last one, 49th Street, it's 480. So obviously that's a deal because under anything under 500,000, I mean, there's no houses for under 500. So it looks like it's a trust. And this guy, I think I remember him. He does a lot of these trust sales or older properties. So this is like in the hood, Lincoln Park. Um, Looks like it needs some work. It's a fixture. So yeah, so the way I would look at this is I would quickly run an ARV. What does ARV stand for? After repair value. So I know a property like this would probably be worth, let me see, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,000 square. So this is what, 750 is worth ARV? What do you guys think? After repair value, fixed up, remodeled, is it 750? David says yes.
Yes.
Michelle says yes. Okay, it's not worth more, right? I don't think it's worth more, and I don't think it's worth less. I think it's about 750. So this is, you guys can see my calculator. This is the way it works. So this is how I run my quick numbers on flips. So this is a flip. This isn't a long-term keep. I don't think. I mean, you can for 480. Yeah, I think you could long-term hold it. But 750 ARV, all we do is multiply it, right? Times zero point 0.7. That's 70%. So I want to buy this thing 70 cents on the dollar, 525. So if it's worth 750, I could easily just buy it right now, 525,000. Now I should make some money on it. So that's a rule of thumb. So earlier we spoke about rules of thumb. We talked about GRMs, cap rates, price per square foot. The next one is equity position, 70% ARV. Is it at 70% ARV? In this case, it is. So investors will easily look at this and say, hey, I'll buy it for 525. Quick numbers, how does it work? Well, 750 minus, let's say investors pay less closing costs, so they pay 30,000 in closing costs. They'll pay about 75 bucks a square foot, 8 bucks a square foot on the remodel. Let's just round it up to 100K. So they put 100,000 into it. They're at 620. So even buying it at 525, you're still making $95,000 profit. That doesn't include holding costs, which that's another calculation. But either way, there's money in this deal at 480 or 525. So who has a buyer for this one? All right. So this is 7 out of 7. Before I move forward, let me just check the messages and just remind you, guys, this is how I've gotten a lot of sales over the year. So I don't know if you guys know Leo Gonzalez, but myself and Leo Gonzalez used to sit next to each other. Leo Gonzalez, by the way, is like, for many years, he was the #2 agent in South Bay. It was Patty McKelvey, #1, Leo Gonzalez, #2, and then I was ranked #7. We used to sit next to each other. And every morning, all he would do, I would do is jump on the MLS and search for properties. And then we would call our clients and they say, hey, we found your property. We found, like, you want to meet us at 2 o'clock today? Because back then there wasn't like these automatic drip systems and our clients weren't like, there was no apps for them to look up their own property. So we had to do this. And I would encourage you guys to do this every single day. And then you guys could find deals too. And you guys could earn commissions because you're getting your clients into deals. So this 49th Street, I mean, I'll probably send it to one of my clients and just say, hey, do you want to buy this? For 525, you'll make some money on it and see what he says. Okay, let me check the chat. Nope, nothing. All right, cool. All right, so let me continue looking for deals. So after my first search is done, then I go to my second search. The second search is like multi-units. And there's only one new multi-unit property that I could look at. This is, I know this guy. So that's the first thing I noticed. Second thing I noticed is it's 2.3 million for 4 units. Doesn't have like, say, screaming deal, but let me look at the area. Linda Vista, definitely not, you know. The next thing I look at is unit count and unit mix. So we have 2 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and then 2 2-bedroom, 1 baths. Then I look at the rents. These are the rents he calculated here in the bottom. By the way, most of the time you can't trust for the agents to calculate this right, and you can't trust for the agent to do the GRM correctly. But in this case, I know that he's a pro. I know that's all he does is investment property. So I'm relying on him to, for these numbers to be accurate. With that being said, if it's a 16.42 GRM, it's not something that it's, let me look at it real quick. Looks like it's newer. Looks like they just built it actually a few years ago. So I could see why they're asking for this amount because it's a newer property. Expenses are going to be a lot less than a older property. There you go, fully remodeled. So they're asking the extra premium um, because of it's a brand new construction, looks like. Um, so not bad. Not a bad property. I think this is like who would buy this? I don't know. Someone who's like older and just wants to hold on to it long term. But with that being said, let's uh let's run numbers, okay? Because you never know. Uh yeah, oh no, 2.3 million. No, it's just too much, you know. So next rule of thumb, you guys ready? This is my calculator again. Next rule of thumb. We already went over GRM, cap rates, um, PITI. Next one is price per unit. 2.35 million divided by 4 units. That's 587,000 a door. Like that's for sure market or above. I'm not the type of investor to pay almost $600,000 a door. That's just like that rule of thumb just doesn't meet my criteria. Um, with that being said, let's look at the is there any square footage details? Yeah, there's some square footage details too right here, 1100 and something square feet. Let me do a price per square foot calculation real quick. Um, oh, 3860 square feet total. So let me do 2.35 million. Again, rules of thumb. That's all I use when I look at deals. Rules of thumb. $600 a square foot. So why is it a deal? Because that 600 square feet is just too much. You know, you could build for 250 a square foot to $350 a square foot. So they're asking for double. So they built it to sell it. They built it to make some money. So this isn't a deal, in my opinion, even though it's in USD. So again, you're learning all these rules of thumbs that I have: cap rates, price per square foot, GRMs, price per unit. Um, and you guys got to get familiar with these. That way you can look at deals faster. The next one, let me see. I have a fourplex search. Let me click on that. This is the same one we just looked at. Commercial. I have a commercial search. This one's under commercial as well. Again, it's not a deal. The next one is that's it. That's all the properties. The other stuff I already looked at. So I'm gonna look at 6 different in industrial properties, commercial. This is looks like it's a condo. Um, let me see. Right on the beach, some sorts. Yeah, so it's like a condo for 3 million. I think. Just let me read it, just that way I'm not missing anything. Present property combines functional design, 15-foot ceilings, blah blah blah. From every angle, 15-foot ceilings. Um, oh, it's a grease trap. So this is like it's stuff for this is a restaurant space basically. I can't really tell what it is though. Um, for 3 million bucks. Huh. Let me see. I have a client who told me if I find anything near the water, he'll buy it. So this is something that, by the way, you should always have. You should have like a Rolodex of people who have told you about certain specific things that they're into. And in this case, it doesn't look like a deal, but I'm gonna just run it by my client and see if he meant what he said. Anything by the water. I don't know if he wanted something in IB, right? The worst of the waters, but um, I'll get some more details because that guy has a lot of money and I don't want to just like send him some random. So I'll reach out to her in a bit and figure out what it is that they're selling. That's the other thing is you want to burn your bridges by just sending people stuff without the details, without knowing stuff, because sooner or later they just be like, dude, this person just sends me stuff without explanation and they're not, and any of them are good deals. And then sooner or later they just stop responding to you. So you just want to make sure that you look at it. The next one is Ramona. What is this? Um, doesn't say much. So again, if you're a listing agent, guys, your job is to sell the property. Right here, it doesn't say anything. It says great corner location, 1 block from the main street, 1 block from a drive-through, and bring your ideas. But it doesn't say what it is. It doesn't say, hey, this is an office building. This is like 5,000 square feet. Like nothing. It tells me right here is like 3,883 square feet, but I don't know how many square feet. Like make it easy on me, right? As a if you're selling anything, you got to make it easy on people to understand what they're looking at. Um, the next one is 92120, and it's a 7,300 square foot parcel. So this is like a vacant piece of land. Looks like $900,000 vacant piece of land. What do I think about that? I think it has potential. I'm trying to think who would buy it. Um, and it talks about it's in complete communities, but 895, it's in a good pocket, super industrial though, and then 7,200 square foot lot. Yeah, off the top of my head, it just doesn't seem like let's say a deal, but I think I'm trying to rack my brain right now, my Rolodex, to see who I know that would buy something like this. Um, 30th Street. This is See, right here, it explains it. This is a good explanation. It says modern retail space, 1,200 square foot, new construction, North Park, newly built ground level commercial retail condominium. So this is how you promote a property. You tell everyone really what they're buying. So this is, if I do the quick math, it's 1,233 square foot. They're asking about 1.3 million. That's $1,000 a square foot. That's just not a great deal. Not anyone that I know that wants it. So I'm gonna skip it. The next one is next door neighbor. Skip that. And then skip that. Okay, that's it. We're not going to look at any other deals. What questions you guys have about what we just went over? Comments? Anything you learned?
That was awesome. Thank you. I was wondering if you ever put together a deal on that other property in Ramona that had several shops available.
Yeah, I did actually. I'll cover that right now, actually. One thing before we go there, I just want you guys to, what we just went over, do it every day. That's how you get better at it. At first, you won't understand it. You won't understand expenses, NOI, cap rates, none of that. But if you just practice every day, and sooner or later, you start getting the hang of it. And then when you meet people with money and professional investors or professional sellers, you're gonna be able to like say, "Oh yeah, I could sell your property. I know GRMs and cap rates and price per square foot and different rules of thumb." More than that, you'll find a bunch of deals on here. And then after that, you're gonna be like, "Wow, that's I I had a good year. I sold 10 investment properties. I sold 10 fourplexes. I sold whatever on top of your regular income. So this is a good way to make some extra income. Does that make sense? Um, Question from Geo. What's the sixth marker of a good deal? So far, I have GRM, cap rate, price per square foot, equity position, price per door, price per room. So then I also compare price per room, per bedroom. Um, Not all the time, sometimes. I also do price per square foot of the land, and I compare to what's going on out there with land. Um, but the six main one, Geo, is the the total rents and the total monthly payment. Does it pay for itself? So for years, that's how I built up my portfolio. One house at a time. As long as it paid for itself with 20% down, I was happy. And then those five out of those six homes, I ended up trading down the road, and it turned into over $10 million just by doing that. So that's a good marker. Um, how long did it take before you're able to use this info and explain to your clients off the rip? Good question. Years. The reason why it took me longer than it should have, because I didn't practice it as much as I should have. If I would have started practicing sooner, it would have been faster. Um, But I did take my first commercial real estate class. It was called CCIM. You could take that course too. It's very expensive. It used to be a 5-day course, Monday through Friday, a couple $1,000. This was when I was 18. I took that first class. 20 something, I'm 42. So 24 years ago, I was the only kid in that class. Everyone else was like 50-year-old white men with, lots of money, I'm assuming. That's at least that's what in my head. I was like, man, these guys are rich just because they're white and old. Um, but I was 18. And I remember that I took that course and they taught me exactly what I'm teaching you guys right now. It was a 101. And I was like, holy crap, I don't know nothing about anything. Um, with that being said, let's go into the deal. So, anyways, to answer your question, Guillermo, it took me years because I didn't practice it enough. And then after I started practicing it, and like basically, I would do this every morning. I would run GRM cap rates every single morning, price per square foot on different deals, and I would send them to clients. And then after I got good at it, then at that point I started to be able to explain it easy to clients. Okay, this is what Holly was asking about. This is where we'll end it. This was a property that I looked at, and this is like half an acre right here. And I thought it was a good deal. I still think it's a good deal. The only issue is, well, you guys can tell me what the issue is. So this is unit one, 997 square feet. Unit two, 1,088 square feet. Unit three, it's a warehouse, 2,350 square feet, huge. Unit four, showroom, 2,100 square feet, used to be a church, huge. Unit five, 1,250 square feet. So this is one unit, unit five, but it could be split into two. This could be unit five here and unit six here because they have two different doors. Total, if you add all that up, about 8,000 square feet of space. Okay. Now, how much could these rent for? Look at this. This is like bread and butter. Expenses are a lot lower. This is instead of a 40% expense ratio, this could be a 35% expense ratio because what is there to fix? The tenant isn't going to mess up the flooring. You don't have to fix the flooring. You don't have to fix, there's no windows. There's nothing to fix. So with that being said, how much could this rent for? Right? Look at this. There's nothing to fix. A carpenter would just move right in. Handyman would move right in. A pool guy would move right in. So how does this work? 8,000 square foot of structure times $1.50 a square foot. That's commercial lingo. You'll make 12,000 a month. Now, Holly, to answer your question, at 1.295, I was like, man, I'm like, I don't know. But Gio, if you want to write this down, rule number 7, the 1% rule. Rule number 7, 1% rule. So if the rents are 1% of the purchase price, it's a deal. So what price would this property be a deal at if the rents are 12,000 a month? $1 rule. If the rents are 12,000 a month, what would this property be a deal at? Come on, guys.
1.2.
They're putting it in the chat.
Yeah, 1.2 million. Gio said 1.2 million. So yes, where's the price? 1.295. That's close enough. Well, with that being said, um, the sellers are willing to sell it for $1 million. 1 million, okay? Um, is that a deal at that point? Yeah. Right. Now, why isn't this a deal? Why would 9 out of 10 investors say no to this deal? I think, let's see if you guys can figure it out.
Because people are waiting, or people don't want to wait to raise rents versus what they're paying for. Or,
They're empty. These are empty.
hmm.
I forgot to mention they're empty.
Yeah, you don't know who's gonna fill them. It's Ramona. It's not like a major city or anything.
There we go. Holly hit it right on the head. It's Ramona. I own a property like this, a bigger property, but similar, looks like it. in Spring Valley, and it's my best property. It cash flows like crazy. It gives me so much cash flow. And I look at this one, it looks exactly the same, but it's Ramona. And I'm like, I don't know how fast. So everyone's afraid of it. I already sent it to at least 30 investors, and everyone's afraid of it. I think it has, um, I think it's a good deal.
It can be good for
You
someone
asked,
who like lives up there and is part of the community and knows people, because that, I mean, Ramona's pretty community. It's where I grew up, and I think it'd be easier to find renters that
have
way.
you asked the sellers why it's vacant?
Oh yeah.
They just didn't manage them correctly. Like the owners actually live there. I'm not live there. They have two of the spaces, two out of the five. And they just been there forever working out. One's a mechanic. They're just not managing greatly. So anyways, 30 investors have said no because it's in Ramona. That's it. Anywhere else, it would sell. So I'm trying to figure out who would buy this thing for $1 million. That's where I'm at. Anyways, with that being said, Gio asked, should we work our way up to commercial and industrial properties? I would say so. And my industrial property is the best property I have, best cash flowing property.
You have
Um,
the agenda.
cool. Before we wrap up, um, this Saturday, 10 a.m., we're gonna have part one of our passive income training at the office. So I'm making some passive income right now. I'm going to share with you guys how I'm making it and how you guys can make it. That way down the road, you don't say, hey, look it, I didn't know about that. So this Saturday, 10 a.m., if you guys can make it here at the office, let's meet here at the office. Everyone's invited.
Can you guys
Second,
text me if you're planning to come? You can
yeah,
send me a
text
text
Vanessa.
message
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
super
planning to
important.
come to that meeting so I can be
Yeah,
prepared for you guys.
super important. It's going to be a quick meeting, 30, 40 minutes, but it's very important. 10 a.m. Saturday. Passive income, it's important, and I'm going to show you guys how I'm making it right now. So pull up, text Vanessa that you're coming. Second, Coffee and Cash, February 11th. Make sure you show up to that, 8 a.m. Bring your clients. That way you add value to them. Third, we moved our mandatory Wednesday training to Wednesday the 11th because Wednesday the 4th, I will not be in town. So put that on your calendars. It's gonna be the second Wednesday of the month in February, not the first. It's gonna be the same day as Coffee and Cash, actually, at 12 p.m. here at the office. In-person workshop, Keys to Ownership. That's gonna be at the end of the month on the 28th of February. Make sure you bring all your clients, anyone that you're working on that wants to buy a house. It's gonna be Francia is gonna be hosting that class actually, and so come to that. Bring your clients, and that way you could convert your clients, okay, and give them value. Um, cool. Thanks for hopping on. Good luck. Go find some investment properties. Peace.